Hello, welcome to the channel Why Stories. Enjoy watching.
The storm was raging over the city. The distant, thunderous rumbles frightened Rocky, who had half hidden under the couch out of fear. Heavy raindrops were pattering on the windowsill. Liana was standing by the window, gazing into the darkness. Her face was wet with tears, much like the streams running down the glass. When Rocky whimpered again and darted towards the couch, the girl called out to him. "You're such a fool. What are you afraid of? You're sitting here in a warm apartment while the storm is out there on the street. Stop being such a big scaredy cat." Understanding his mistress's words, Rocky turned his tail and, wagging it slightly, guiltily went towards her. The girl patted him on the head. Diego was late again. It happened more and more often lately. Liana understood that in the last month of pregnancy, she no longer seemed as attractive to him, but now she needed his support more than ever. They weren't married, as they both considered having a marriage certificate a useless formality. Could a certificate be a symbol of true love? The child was another matter. When Liana learned she was pregnant, she was over the moon. They had only recently begun living together. Liana came from a small town where she lived with her grandmother. She didn't remember her parents. Her mother died when she was only 3 years old, and she had never seen her father. In the big city, the girl hoped to start a happy life. She easily got into culinary school and, after graduating, got a job in a small restaurant. There, she met Diego. The nice and cheerful girl immediately caught the eye of the guy. He's been courting her for a long time, bringing flowers after all of her shifts. For the girl, who wasn't used to male attention, such romantic gestures seemed like something out of a fairy tale. Liana fell in love almost immediately. The feelings were mutual, and the young people started building a relationship. Liana lived in a small apartment on the outskirts. She rented it with her friend Germana. The friend often came home with different guys, rarely the same ones as last time. Liana didn't condemn Germana's behavior, as everyone has the right to live as they want, but living in such an environment wasn't very comfortable for her. When Diego suggested moving in together, she agreed without hesitation, even though they had only been together for about 4 months at that point. Liana was a good cook, so she immediately started spoiling her beloved with delicious food. Diego really liked it. The guy earned well, so he suggested that Liana quit her job and focus on the household chores, and she was happy to make the house cozy because Diego liked coming back every night to the place where he was loved and expected. So they lived for another 3 months like this, and then Liana saw the coveted 2 stripes on the test. She had been on the edge all day, waiting for her beloved Diego to return. When she told him the news, the guy was very happy, picked her up, and spun her around. Liana was happy. Everything was fine, but lately, Diego has somehow distanced himself. He came home late, ate in silence, and went to bed, sometimes even forgetting to kiss her. The girl attributed this behavior to her condition and the fact that she had become less attractive. Attempts to have a serious conversation with her beloved led to nothing. Diego explained that work was taking up a lot of his energy right now, but Liana felt that it wasn't the only reason. And now he was late again. The girl was worried because of the storm. The wind outside was so strong that several large branches on some trees were broken off. "I hope he's okay," the girl thought, staring into the darkness. "I haven't seen such a hurricane in a long time. Maybe Diego is just sitting in the office, waiting for the storm to pass. I would do exactly that if I were him." Finally, she heard the sound of the lock opening. Rocky happily barked, greeting the owner. "Here I am," she said, hearing a familiar voice in the hallway. "It's pouring out there." "Diego," Liana exclaimed joyfully, coming out to meet him. "I was so worried." "What's wrong with you?" The guy chuckled. "You shouldn't worry about your state. How else? You were supposed to come at 6 p.m., and it's almost 10 now. I've imagined all sorts of things." Silly, Diego hugged Liana around the waist and stroked her belly. "Oh, did you feel that?" "She's been like this all day," the girl smiled. The baby inside her moved again. I think I'm going to give birth soon. Yes, it's about time. Okay, don't worry, just a little bit more and you'll feel better. I don't know how much better, Liana frowned. Diego, to be honest, I'm so afraid. Afraid? Of what? Becoming a mom? Stop it, I'm with you, we'll handle it together. I love you so much. Liana pressed and hugged her man tightly. You're probably hungry, right? I made dinner. No, dear, we ate in the office, the guys ordered delivery. I'm sorry, I really didn't know when I'd be back. Okay, the girl was a little disappointed. Maybe you want to have a bath. You got wet to the skin. I won't refuse to have a hot bath. Leaving Diego with the dog, Liana went to fill the bath with water for him. When the water was about halfway full, the girl felt a sharp pain in her stomach. The spasm repeated, and Liana fell to her knees and curled up in pain. Diego, she shouted. Why did it take you so long? The guy exclaimed, peeking into the bathroom. Oh my God. Diego, it's time, Liana said hoarsely. Damn, even the water broke. Wait a moment, Diego said. What should we do? Liana looked at him with fear. Can you dress in? Let's go. Get ready to go to the hospital. I can't, Liana screamed in pain. Okay, just sit here for now. I'll call an ambulance, and I hope they'll come quickly in this storm. Diego quickly contacted the dispatch, explained the situation, and helped Liana lay down on the bed. Contractions were getting more frequent, and the girl was in pain and afraid. The time seemed to drag on forever. Diego panicked no less. He didn't know how to help Liana, so he was just holding her hand. After about 40 minutes, an ambulance finally arrived. Checking how often the contractions were, they transferred Liana onto a stretcher and took her to the hospital. Diego followed behind. The childbirth went smoothly, and after just 3 hours, a healthy girl was born. When the nurses brought the baby to her mother, Liana was slowly regaining consciousness. She carefully took the baby in her arms and brought it to her chest. Diego was allowed to enter the ward. Seeing his daughter, the guy smiled, although it was evident he was still afraid. She looks a lot like you, Liana whispered. Just be quiet, I'm afraid to disturb her. Wow, Diego whispered back. What a miracle. So, am I a father now? Yes, honey, Liana answered wearily. This is our daughter. The guy was standing still, watching as his little girl made a soft noise. Diego, Liana suddenly said, you're white as a sheet, and it's already so late. Go home, get some sleep, and we'll wait for you here. The next 3 days, Liana spent in the postnatal department. Diego never came to visit her, citing a heavy workload at work. Although Liana didn't like it, she understood that the guy had to earn money. A couple of times, Germana came to see her and brought fruit. Don't worry so much, Liana's friend comforted her. Diego will be with you. Think about it, he's working, and now you'll have a better life than before. You will devote all your time to the baby, and men are always working. It's okay. Once you get back in shape, everything will be fine. And don't forget, being pregnant can significantly blunt a man's desire. It's not only about losing physical attractiveness. Just think about it, you were quite capricious, and he found an outlet at work, a distraction, so to speak. Do you think so? Liana doubted. He didn't stop loving you, it happens. How would you know? You never had any serious relationships. This is psychology, Germana said with an important look. You'll see, he'll be crawling on his knees before you, begging for forgiveness for being so inattentive. Germana, I think I understand all this, but I have some silly premonitions. This is just postpartum anxiety. I hope so. Now I'm also worried that he won't be able to meet me when I'm discharged because of his work. Oh, don't worry, you can take a taxi. And stop winding yourself up. By the way, when are you being discharged? The day after tomorrow. I would have come to see you myself, so you wouldn't worry, but my new admirer invited me to go to the countryside. Germana, don't worry, and don't even think about me. What if something serious comes of it this time? I would like that, her friend dreamily said. He's so cool, you'd like him. It would be a shame to lose someone like that. Hold on to him tight. And I'll try to calm down. Pregnancy has really exhausted me. Why haven't you given the baby a name yet? Diego said he would come up with it himself. It's very important to him, but, honestly, I've already called her Maricela. It's a beautiful name. Dear, have a rest, and when I return from the countryside, I'll pop in to see you and cuddle Maricela, and I'll tell Diego off for his indifference. He's become a workaholic, even though he didn't look like one. Come on, Germana, have a good trip. On the day of discharge, Diego didn't pick up the phone, although the day before, he had promised to meet them at the maternity hospital. Liana started to worry a lot. She was always a worrier and assumed the worst. What if he had an accident? The girl fretted. Where do people call in such cases? Exactly. Liana figured she'd call Diego at work. Hello, the girl greeted. Can I speak to Diego Fernandez? He doesn't work here anymore. The girl was embarrassed. What? Liana was very surprised. When did it happen? He quit 3 months ago. What? That can't be. He didn't say anything to me. I'm sorry. Who are you? I am, Liana began, but then she suddenly stopped. Goodbye. She hung up the phone in complete confusion. Liana couldn't even imagine that it would all turn out like this. Of course, Diego might not have said that he quit to spare her from worrying. But then, where did he spend all these days? She made a few more attempts to reach him, but each time she had to leave the voicemail. Liana left him a message, but he didn't call back within 2 hours. There was nothing she could do. She had to be discharged and go home with the baby alone. The worst part was that Liana didn't have her apartment keys, money, or a card to order a taxi. When the contraction started, she didn't have time to pack anything, and Diego didn't bring her anything, promising to pick her up from the maternity hospital. When Liana was handed the baby, she tightly hugged the girl, picked up her bag, and walked into the vestibule. There was nobody there. She had been sitting there for a few minutes, gently rocking her sleeping daughter in her arms, and then walked outside. It was a warm summer day, and there were people everywhere. Watching their happy faces, Liana started to cry. She didn't know what to do. Riding the bus with the baby seemed like a bad idea to her. She didn't even know how to get home. She was just standing there, crying, afraid of waking the baby. Liana didn't know how much time had passed. She helplessly sat down on a bench and held the baby to her chest. Her thoughts drifted far away. Liana didn't even realize at first that a man had addressed her. Miss, hey, the stranger gently shook her shoulder. Are you okay? Do you need help? What? Excuse me? Liana emerged from her reverie and looked at the stranger. He had a fancy jacket, glasses in a delicate gold frame, and radiant eyes. The man was in his 50s, and his hair was tinged with graying. Sorry for intruding on your space, the man continued. You're crying, sitting here alone with a baby. Obviously something has happened. Why do you care? Liana replied through her tears. I can't just pass by someone who's in trouble. The man smiled softly, and Liana felt a little ashamed that she was so rough towards him. My name is Naikana Ramos, and yours? Liana Fernandez. The girl was embarrassed, but she answered the man's outstretched hand with a handshake. What is the name of this miracle? Naikana nodded at the baby. She doesn't have a name yet, technically, according to the documents. I named her Maricela, but Diego. When she thought about her boyfriend, she burst into tears again. I see that something is wrong with you, dear Liana. It's not hard to guess that it's connected to a certain Diego. The man sat down next to her, showing with his whole demeanor that he was ready to listen to the story of the unknown girl. I apologize for my intrusiveness. I understand how all this looks, but maybe I can help you after all. No one can help me anymore, the girl sighed deeply, holding the baby even tighter. Honestly, I don't even understand what happened. As soon as they discharged me from the maternity hospital, Diego, my boyfriend, disappeared somewhere. I don't have any money with me, no keys to the apartment, and he doesn't answer my calls. I don't know what to think. Diego quit his job, but he didn't tell me anything, and I don't know if he's lying to me or something happened. Something was going on with him lately, but because of the pregnancy, I didn't notice anything. And now I need to get home, but I don't have money for a taxi. That's the problem? Nikaina raised an eyebrow. Let me give you a lift, it's no trouble. I have a car. Is it far? On the Central Street. I would take the bus, but I don't know which one goes from here to there. Come on, Liana, we'll be there in 15 minutes, just don't cry. I don't know how to thank you. Forget about it, it's nothing. Nikaina took Liana's bag and escorted her to the car. A luxurious black SUV was sparkling brightly in the sun. Liana had only seen cars like that in pictures. She didn't know much about car brands, but she immediately understood that such a car cost a small fortune. Let's go. Get comfortable. Nikaina opened the back door and showed her the cozy, bright interior. Liana was even afraid to sit on such expensive leather. I'll hold the baby, I promise I won't drop her. Nikaina radiated such warmth that Liana, without hesitation, handed him the child. She sat in the car, after which Nikaina immediately handed the girl back to her, and he himself got into the driver's seat. You have a beautiful car, Liana decided to compliment him. Oh, it's just a means of transport, Nikaina laughed. I myself rarely drive, but sometimes I want to. I decided to try out the new car today, and I did so successfully, otherwise, I wouldn't have met you. I live nearby, my sister works in the maternity hospital where you were discharged from. I brought her some things, came out, and saw such a beautiful girl crying. Could I just pass by? Thank you very much again, Liana answered quietly, afraid to wake her daughter. If it weren't for you, I would still be sitting on that bench, completely lost. Your boyfriend let you down. I hope he had a really good reason not to come. I don't know, Liana shrugged. The main thing is that everything is okay with him. Oh, here's my house, the third entrance. When Nikaina parked in the designated place, Liana looked around the courtyard. Diego's car is parked here, she frowned. Why isn't he answering the phone? Did he fall asleep and forget everything? May I help you up? No, the girl shook her head. I live on the second floor. See the balcony with the petunias? Beautiful flowers. Yes, I grow them every summer, it's my grandmother's favorite flower. Liana fell silent, remembering the wrinkled, kind face. Okay, I have to go. Thanks again. No thanks are needed. It's such a trifle, Nikaina laughed. Be happy. Liana got out of the car and headed towards the entrance. She's been ringing the intercom for a long time, but no one has answered. This greatly worried the girl, because, judging by Diego's car, he was home. He couldn't even walk to the nearest store. She waited until some woman came out of the entrance and dove inside. Climbing to the second floor, Liana felt her legs refuse to move. Her whole body was shaking, and the girl couldn't deal with it. Pressing the doorbell, she has been listening for a long time, but she couldn't hear any sounds at the apartment. Even Rocky wasn't barking, although the dog always barked if someone rang the doorbell. After standing there for a few minutes, Liana called the neighbors. Almost immediately, a sleepy woman in a pink robe opened the door. Who are you looking for? Yawning, she asked Liana. I'm sorry, I live in the next apartment, and my boyfriend doesn't open the door. What does it have to do with me? The woman asked displeasedly. Maybe you've seen him or know when he was home last. The neighbor's face reflected deep thought. Oh, Liana, I didn't even recognize you. When did you give birth to the baby? I was discharged from the maternity hospital today, and Diego disappeared, and he's probably not home, although his car is outside. Maybe he's walking the dog? I saw him yesterday, I think. Yes, yesterday evening, he was with a tall girl with heavy makeup. I didn't even say hello, although we literally bumped into each other. I was just going to the store. And that's it. I didn't see anything else. Are you sure? Liana was struck by the news. Completely, the woman nodded. Don't you have the keys? You've been living here for a while, haven't you? It all happened so quickly that I didn't have time to take anything, so I left the keys to the apartment, and now we don't even have anywhere to go, and Diego's not picking up the phone. Well, I can't invite you to my place. I'm sorry. I'm not alone, so. No, that's okay, Liana shook her head. I'm not asking for it. I'm just very worried about what would happen if something happened. If you see him, please tell him that I was discharged and tell him to call me. Okay. But, judging by what happened, there's something between him and that girl. How do I explain it? He hugged her, not entirely modestly. Liana hesitated. Maybe you imagined it. Okay, sorry again for bothering you, I'll go. Tell him to call me. Sure, I'll tell him, the neighbor nodded and closed the door. Liana stood in front of her apartment for a while longer, but no one came to the door. Tears streamed down the girl's cheeks again. The only person she could go to right now was Germana, but her friend wasn't in town, and the spare keys to the apartment were in the purse Liana left at home. Understanding the hopelessness of her situation, Liana slowly began to descend, sincerely hoping that the baby would not wake up anytime soon. As if feeling her mother's worry, the girl began to move. Quieter, my sweetheart, Liana hummed, feeling the salty bitter taste of tears on her lips. She left the entrance, thinking that she had missed the chance to ask for the phone number of the kind man who had driven her home. Looking up, she was surprised to see that Nikanor's car was still in her yard. I knew it, he said regretfully, approaching the girl with the baby. So, wasn't he home? Oh my God, I'm so glad you didn't leave, Liana exclaimed happily. I don't know what to think. I called and knocked, there was no answer, although his car is here and Diego is always driving. And the neighbor said she saw him yesterday evening with some girl. I think I understand everything. Liana, sit in the car for now, we'll figure something out. Already in the car, the girl slowly began to come to terms with her senses. The baby in her arms was still fast asleep, but Liana felt that she could wake up and ask for food at any moment. Liana, Nikanor addressed her as they were leaving the yard. Tell me, do you have anywhere to go? I have a friend, but she won't be back for a couple of days, and I don't have the keys to her apartment. And there's also my grandmother, but she lives very far away, in another city. Then listen. I can offer to rent you a room in a hotel for a while, but I think it won't be very convenient with a child there, so let me drive you to my place now. You can stay there for a couple of days until your friend returns. Moreover, Diego might show up. You never know what might happen in life. It might be very inconvenient, Liana tried to refuse. It's inconvenient to leave a mother with a newborn baby on the street. My apartment is big. I do live with my wife, though. And my son and daughter-in-law are staying with us now while their house is being built. It won't be boring or scary, I promise. But how will they react to the fact that you invited a completely unknown person into the house, especially with a baby? Everything will be fine, don't worry about it. My wife is an understanding person, I think she'll take it well. Honestly, Liana frowned, I feel very uncomfortable, and besides. What is it? Nikanor looked at her seriously. And besides, I don't have anything for the baby. No buts, young lady. I have the desire and the means to help you, so it would be foolish to refuse. Liana didn't argue, although she tried to figure out what prompted this man to approach her and offer help. When Nikanor came out of the supermarket carrying a couple of huge bags, Liana couldn't even guess where they would go next. The SUV was taking them somewhere beyond the city along a noisy highway. Liana, don't be scared. I live in the suburbs. I moved there from the city a long time ago. The place is very picturesque, and the house is big, so you won't bother anyone. Liana just nodded silently. She was very nervous and mostly just wanted to sleep. Nikaner quickly brought them to a small cottage village. Judging by the mansions here, this was a place where not ordinary people lived. Houses, surrounded by gardens and wrought iron fences, were adorned with lush stucco, and expensive cars were parked almost everywhere. The air smelled of pines. "It smells so good here," Liana exclaimed joyfully, taking in a deep breath. "No wonder," Nikaner proudly replied. "This area is surrounded by a relic pine forest. We can take a walk later. My wife, Isolda, often walks in the forest. She even has her own routes. It's absolutely safe here, and there are many well-equipped places." "That's great. I was in a pine forest about 5 years ago, when I was still in school. My grandmother didn't let me go to the forest alone, but I still ran away. Here we are." The car stopped at a beautiful wrought iron gate. The pattern was so intricate and filigree that, at first, Liana even thought the gate was covered with some unknown plants with black leaves. The gate slowly moved aside, and Nikaner drove into a large courtyard paved with cobblestones. Some stones were covered with soft green moss. The small house, which Liana initially took for the owners, turned out to be a utility building where a security checkpoint and staff were located. The main mansion was at the back of the garden. It was a magnificent 3-story building made of dark brick in an English style. One wall was completely covered in ivy, and in front of the main entrance there was an elegant fountain in the sun. "Wow," Liana gasped when she saw the house. "That's what I call a palace." "It's not a palace. You have no idea, Liana, how much effort, not just money, I put into building it. I don't need such a mansion, but Isolda insisted on it. She wanted a family estate for a large family. But in the end, we have a son, and he doesn't want to live with us. He got married and cramped into a tiny apartment with his wife. Now they've decided to build their own house, and it's just Isolda and me in this mansion. And why, I wonder, did we build all this? I'd give anything to live in something like this, even for a short while," Liana sighed dreamily. "Nonsense. I offer you to stay here as long as you want, free of charge. I understand that it looks strange. Some unknown man drove up, took you away somewhere, and now he's offering you to live at his place for free." "Yes," Liana nodded, "it's very strange, and I would never have agreed if it weren't for." "All right, don't dwell on the negative," Nikaner said in a reassuring tone. "Let's go and meet the family." The house turned out to be even more luxurious inside than outside. "Hey, is anyone home?" Nikaner shouted. They heard a lively tap of heels from above. Liana looked up and saw a woman descending the stairs. She was a real beauty, a petite woman with a finely chiseled figure, hair styled high, black as pitch, and huge eyes. Liana was standing there paralyzed, still clutching the sleeping baby to her. "Oh," the woman said in a melodious voice, "it seems you're not alone. Isolda, meet Liana and her daughter, Maricela. This lovely lady is my wife, Isolda." "Nice to meet you," the woman said softly, surveying the guest from head to toe. Liana felt strong embarrassment under the gaze of Isolda's deep gray eyes. "Well, Liana and Maricela, welcome. Isolda, the girls are in a bit of a predicament, so they'll be staying with us for a couple of days. Please help them get settled, the baby will wake up soon." "Really?" Isolda raised an eyebrow. "Let's go, dear, we have a spare room. The maid's work time is over, so we'll have to do everything ourselves." "Of course," Liana replied, feeling scared. "I didn't even." "Don't be afraid, and don't be embarrassed. My husband is a good person. If he brought you here, there must be a reason, and I won't ask about anything unless you decide yourself to tell me." Liana had the thought that this woman might think Nikaner had brought a mistress with a child into the house, but she quickly dismissed these thoughts, realizing that men don't cheat on women like Isolda, and besides, Nikaner was completely sane. The woman led Liana upstairs. Walking down the long corridor, they entered one of the rooms. The first thing that caught Liana's eye was the huge window that took up the entire wall. The bedroom was spacious and bright, decorated in pale yellow tones. "Liana, look," Isolde began, "there's a separate bathroom here, so I don't think you'll have any problems with bathing the baby and the rest. The bed is quite comfortable. Unfortunately, we don't have a crib, so you'll have to sleep together." "Oh, don't worry," Liana blushed. "I've never seen such a luxurious bedroom in my life. Of course, we'll sleep together. Moreover, I'm only staying with you for a couple of days." "Okay," Isolde squinted. "Maybe you'll tell us what happened to you after all." At that moment, the baby woke up and expressed her desire to eat with a cry. "Oh, I'm sorry," Liana said distractedly. "I'll have to feed Maricela now." "Sure, dear, take your time. If you need to take a bath, towels and robes are there. Don't hesitate to take what you need. I'll leave you for now. When you're ready, come down." When Isolde left, Liana breastfed the baby. After unpacking the bags, she found not only diapers but also everything necessary for a newborn, including clothes. This surprised her greatly, since Nijkaner was the one who made the purchases. I guess when Nijkaner and Isolde had their son, it was Nijkaner who went shopping, she thought, so he knows what to buy and what not to. He's an interesting man, and besides, his wife is too friendly for a wealthy woman. I never thought that people who have a lot of money, which is obvious judging by the house, could be kind and simply shelter a homeless person with a child. I can't use their generosity forever. I wish Germana would return soon. What should I do next? Go back to Grandma's? What happened with Diego? Did he leave me? I still need to get in touch with him. I don't understand anything. Everything is too strange. Even if he did leave me, couldn't he have talked instead of making me hope for something? Or did he just lose his nerve? Liana bathed Maricela, changed her into cute rompers that were among the purchases, and put her to sleep. The girl fell asleep very quickly. "It's incredible, she's like a little kitten," the young mother said. "She just ate and immediately went to sleep. I'd like to take a nap myself." Liana took a shower and, wrapping herself in a soft terry robe, lay down next to her daughter. She fell asleep instantly. The girl woke up to the baby's crying. Liana fed her again and rocked her a little in her arms until she fell asleep again. After dressing, the girl decided to go downstairs. She quietly left the room and headed to the stairs. A young man was walking towards her, apparently the son of the owners. "Hello," he said, surprised, looking Liana over. "You must be our guest?" "Hello," the girl said shyly. "Yes, my name is Liana." "I'm Christian," the guy smiled. "Where's your daughter?" "I put her to sleep. I don't even know if it's okay to leave her alone, but taking her with me around a stranger's house is probably not the best idea." "Why do you think so? Are you afraid of bothering someone?" "Don't worry, everyone here lives on their own. Antonia is at work right now, she'll only be back in the evening. Dad also left, he has some business meetings." "And Isolde?" "Mom's downstairs cooking something in the kitchen. It's strange, I don't remember when the last time she cooked was. If you want to talk to her, go downstairs, and after, immediately turn to the left, you won't get lost. You have such a big house." "Yes, but what's the use of it?" Christian answered somewhat detached. "Parents built a family mansion, but Antonia refuses to live here at all. My mother and Antonia have a difference of opinion. No, they love each other, but if they start managing the house together, they start quarreling. We're building a house too, but smaller. And I always dreamed of living like this, but alas. Would you like me to look after the baby for a while?" Christian suddenly offered. "Antonia and I will eventually have to become parents too." "Of course, if you want," Liana agreed. "Let's go, I'll show you her." They went to the room where a tiny Maricela was sleeping in a makeshift crib made of a down blanket in the middle of a huge bed. Christian quietly approached the girl. He had been looking at her for a long time without saying anything. Liana, listen, it's none of my business. But where's the baby's father? I don't know, the girl shrugged. No, I don't mean that I don't know who he is or where he is. Diego simply disappeared. He didn't come to meet me from the maternity hospital. He's not at home. If it weren't for your dad, I don't even know what I would do. What do you mean? Christian was surprised. How couldn't he come? How long have you been together? A year and a half, but now, apparently, he just abandoned me without any explanation. Didn't he want a child? That's the thing he did. That's why I don't understand anything. The last time I saw him was the day before we left the hospital. Everything was fine. There were no signs that Diego had decided to leave us. And the neighbor said that he brought some girl home. Oh, I see. I need to find out everything myself. As soon as my friend returns, I'll go to her place and deal with it. Why wait and rely on someone else? Firstly, you can stay here as long as you need, and secondly, I don't have much to do right now, so I can help you find your Romeo. It's awkward to ask for that, the girl hesitated. Why? It's not difficult for me. I'm even curious what made this idiot act like this. Go take a walk around the house for now, check it out, and I'll stay with the baby girl. If she wakes up, I'll call you right away. Thank you, Liana nodded and left the room. She wanted to talk to Isolda. Liana still couldn't believe that these people were ready to help her completely selflessly. But what if they've got something in mind? No, it doesn't seem so, but still, what if this Isolda is crazy? I've heard that they're very good at pretending to be kind and sympathetic. Who's going to look for me, especially here? It's easy for people like this to commit a crime and get away with it. What if they're planning to take my baby away? Just knock me down, or at best make me a slave, so that I'd have to clean up these hundreds of rooms here. And I won't even be able to escape. There's so much security here, Liana thought. She went into the kitchen, where Isolda was busy cooking something. The woman turned around, and a wide smile immediately appeared on her face, showing her impeccable teeth. Liana even flinched. Sweetie, are you awake? I came into the room, but you and the baby were sleeping so sweetly that I didn't dare to disturb you. Where is the baby? I met your son on the way, and he offered to watch the baby for a while. Christian loves children. He always wanted a little brother or sister, but it never worked out, and Antonia isn't planning on becoming a mother yet. The girl is focused on her career. She's a designer. Honestly, in her place, I wouldn't worry much. The belly doesn't interfere with drawing. Now you, Liana, tell me, is Maricela a wanted child? Of course, the girl replied, amazed that she asked such a question so directly. We both wanted a baby very much. It seems that not both of you. I talked to Nikaner. He said your man disappeared without a trace. Liana, forgive me for asking so directly, but I need to understand who I'm dealing with to decide whether to help this person or not. Nikaner is an unimaginable altruist, but I'm not like him. Isolda, I'm not offended, Liana replied firmly. I got into a silly situation and can't understand whether I'm stupid or just ignorant. But before drawing conclusions, I need to sort it out myself. With Diego, we haven't been together for so long, and we haven't been officially married, but when he found out he was going to be a father, he was very happy or pretended to be happy. Now I'm not sure about anything. He worked a lot and often stayed late because he had to earn money to support the child. But it turned out he quit his job 3 months ago without telling me anything. And then the neighbor said she saw him with some woman. I'm not stupid, I can add 2 plus 2. I just can't understand why he did this because Maricela is his daughter too. Could he just get rid of people like this? He knew very well that I had nowhere to go, all my things were left in the apartment. I'm not in despair. In the worst case, I'll go back to my grandmother's, and anyway, I have everything I need, so I'll find work again. Things will work out somehow. Why did he do this? Maybe he wanted to get back at you. Is this man jealous? Oh, come on, Liana even laughed. Jealous of whom? When I started living with him, I quit my job. I was always at home. He knew every step I took. Germana is the only friend I have left. There couldn't even be any talk of male friends. Diego, of course, is insanely jealous, but I didn't give him any reason. And why would he want to get back at me? Men sometimes have strange things going on in their heads. No, if you think so, then we shouldn't develop this topic. Then everything is obvious. He found someone else and decided to leave without saying goodbye. Then he's just a scoundrel. Liana, you should be happy that you managed to get rid of him so easily. So easy? Liana was surprised. But now I have a child, which I can neither support nor give a proper upbringing to. Why do you think so? Children are a blessing. You can raise them, and only one can do it perfectly. From talking to you, I can see that you're a reasonable woman. Even in this whole situation, another woman would be sobbing, and you're calm, not like a snake, of course, but you're keeping yourself together. Isolda, Liana hesitated. I wanted to ask. Why are you helping me? I always thought that people like you stood aside from other people's troubles. People like us? The hostess laughed. What do you mean? Well, wealthy. Liana looked away. Girl, Isolda sighed. Money is not an indicator of indifference or callousness. My husband. You know, it's better to talk to him about it yourself. But, in short, he travels a lot and loves India the most. When he first came there, he was lucky enough to meet such people. In general, they completely turned his worldview upside down. He often helps people in need. Almost always, people are to blame for their troubles. Sometimes, due to circumstances, a person can't do anything about them. Here you are, for example. Of course, you can blame yourself for being naive, inattentive, or just plain stupid in the end. However, did you know that your beloved would turn out to be a hypocrite? He played his role well. And yes, now it all depends on you. How you'll get out of this situation is entirely up to you. It will be difficult, but nothing is impossible. And if such a person as Nikaner has the opportunity to help, then why not? Nowadays, few people are capable of selfless deeds. Few, I agree, Isolda nodded, but they exist, and you were lucky to meet one of them. Don't try to find a catch, there isn't one. You've probably already decided that you've ended up in a den of the abnormal. I see from your face that I'm right. Yes, Liana said embarrassedly. To be honest, such thoughts crossed my mind. Well, then, Isolda sighed, you should understand, everything that happens is not just a coincidence. If Nikaner hadn't gone to his sister's, he wouldn't have met you and your daughter, wouldn't have offered help, and God knows how it would have all turned out. But it did happen. So, you just need to keep living, learn from your experiences, and try to see the whole picture. For example, do you have any thoughts on what you'll do next? My friend will be back the day after tomorrow. I'll stay with her. We used to work together, but I moved in with Diego and left that place. What did you do? I was a cook, Liana blushed for some reason. It's my specialty, but I really like cooking. Isolda smiled. So you gave up your favorite thing for your family. It turns out so, Liana sighed. And now you're thinking of going back to it? I don't know how to do anything else. I just don't know how to combine work with the baby. I don't have any money, not even for the short term. Of course, Germana won't let me starve and won't leave me on the street, but I won't be able to sit on her neck for long, so the most sensible decision would be to go back to my grandmother in the province. I'll get a job at some canteen or eatery there and leave Maricelo with her. Do you think she'll like that? Isolda squinted. I doubt it. I don't have the best relationship with my grandmother. She wasn't too happy when she found out that I had given up on everything and started living with a guy. I don't have any parents. My mother died, and I never knew my father. My grandmother is my only relative. She'll understand. But there's still a chance that she'll refuse. Liana, listen, Isolda frowned. I have an offer for you. In general, I'm currently looking for a cook. A woman used to work for us, but she had to leave due to family circumstances. I can't cook at all. Here, you can assess my culinary delights." With these words, Isolde moved the plate of pancakes to Liana. "Nikaner doesn't come home until the evening, just like Antonia. I don't eat much. Christian works from home, so he's always in the kitchen. If I offer you a place to stay, will you accept?" "Seriously?" Liana looked at the hostess incredulously. "But you don't even know how well I cook." "Anyway, it's better than me," Isolde laughed. "Of course, I can find a high-level cook. But is there any point? We don't need any culinary masterpieces on the table. Normal and tasty homemade food is the perfect option. Try it, you might like it. I'll pay a good salary. Let's do it. We can cook dinner together now. If everyone in the house likes it, you can start working tomorrow." "But what's bothering you? That there won't be anyone to watch the baby? That's not a problem. I'll hire a nanny. While you're busy in the kitchen, she'll take care of the little girl." "Is that possible?" Liana was very surprised. "Why are you offering this to me at all? It seems to me that my level is far from the requirements of your family. Don't underestimate yourself. A good cook is the key to the health and good mood of my relatives. And I feel that you're exactly that. My intuition never fails, and even the whole situation has worked out so that the cook came to our house when we needed them most. I really want to accept your offer, Isolde. Especially considering my circumstances. But it's still too tempting. I used to look at everything skeptically and suspiciously. I didn't believe people or trust anyone, but Nikaner helped me see the world from a different perspective. He always gives people a chance. It doesn't matter who they are, family, subordinates, partners, or complete strangers, and he became an example for me. Of course, I don't know anything about you, but for some reason, it seems to me that I need to make you this offer, and you need to accept it." "Fine," Liana nodded. "Let's cook dinner. But I'll tell you right away that I won't meet expectations. Confidence is one of the main keys to success. This is only my opinion, but it might have been a lack of confidence in yourself that caused your problems." Liana cooked a stew and a couple of salads. Isolde hardly helped, preferring not to interfere, but was carefully watching everything the girl did. When everything was ready, they set the table together. The hostess surveyed the dining room. "Nikaner will be back soon. I can't say anything about Antonia. Let's have dinner without her." "Here I am," Nikaner, entering the dining room, exclaimed. "It smells so delicious here. Isolde, did you actually cook something edible for once?" "Stop being so sarcastic," the woman smiled. "Maybe I did cook something. Sit down, I'll call Christian." "Well, Liana? Getting used to things a little?" Nikaner asked as he sat down at the table. "Yes," Liana replied somewhat nervously. "We talked a bit with Isolde, and I feel more at ease." "She probably told you what a great person I am," the man chuckled. "About that too," Liana said seriously. "To me, you are definitely such a person." "Stop it, I hardly did anything." Isolde and Christian entered the dining room. Christian took a deep breath and seemed pleased. "I haven't had a good stew in ages," he said cheerfully. "That's what smells so good. Antonia must be intentionally delaying to avoid eating Mom's food, and now she's missing out on so much. Shall I serve everyone?" Liana timidly suggested. "You're a cook, so go ahead," Isolde chuckled. "So it was you, Liana? Have you cooked everything?" Nikaner was surprised. "Yes," she modestly said. "I hope you like it." As the family started dinner, Liana received many compliments. Everyone liked the food. Isolde was watching the girl with a sly grin. Liana blushed deeply but appeared very content. "Liana," the hostess said when they were clearing the table together, "I think I made the right decision. A deal is worth more than money. Now Nikaner and Christian will hardly want to eat anything else. I know them too well. I'm glad you all liked it. Go and rest, the dishwasher will handle it." And your daughter is waiting for you. As Liana drifted off to sleep, she tried to call Diego several more times, but he still didn't answer. In the morning, Liana was awakened by a light knock on the door. Sleepy, she didn't immediately recognize where she was. Liana, Isolda whispered, peering into the bedroom. Are you still asleep? No, Isolda, Liana replied, sitting up in bed. Liana, I've invited a nanny, and she's already here. So get up, I'll introduce you now, and you can trust her with your daughter. Ariel Herrera is a very pleasant woman. She used to babysit with Christian. All right, Liana nodded. Give me 5 minutes. You don't have to rush, Isolda smiled. Liana got ready even faster. Maricela was peacefully sleeping on her pillows. Although the mother had to feed her a couple of times during the night, the girl could easily start crying. I'm here, Liana smiled, coming downstairs, where Isolda was already waiting for her in the company of a pleasant elderly lady. Meet Liana. This is Ariel, you can say she's a family friend, Isolda said. Where's the little girl? Ariel asked. She's still sleeping, Liana said embarrassedly. The women had chatted for a while longer before the nanny went to Liana's bedroom to check on her new charge. Liana, you can start your duties and not worry about anything. You can make breakfast as you like, nobody here has any special preferences. You can make coffee in the coffee machine, I'll show you how it works. True, Nikaner only drinks the one made in the pot. Can you handle that? Of course, Liana nodded. I'm not sure if he'll like it or not, but I'll try. Isolda showed her where the food and dishes were, and Liana immediately started making breakfast. She deftly toasted the bread, made fluffy pancakes, and even cooked porridge with berries. She prepared coffee for Nikaner according to her own signature recipe. When everything was almost ready, an unfamiliar girl burst into the kitchen. Just don't tell me you're the goddess who cooked dinner yesterday, the girl giggled cheerfully. I'm Antonia, Christian's wife. Nice to meet you, I'm Liana, Liana replied shyly. You can talk to me as much as you want, I'm not Isolda, who's always so elevated and important. Really? I didn't get that impression. Isolda is a very nice woman. Nice, that's true. But when it comes to her beloved son, she can turn into a real demon. Believe me. So, if you're cooking in this house, the first person you need to please is Christian. If he's happy, we'll all appreciate it. Is that so? I thought he liked it yesterday. Of course he did. I myself had some leftovers in the evening, and I even added some extra. I usually don't eat much, and especially not in this house. And I don't have time to cook myself, even now it's time to leave, so I'll have a couple of pancakes and go. They look very appetizing. One by one, all the family members came downstairs and had breakfast. Even Nikaner was very pleased with the coffee Liana made. Very delicious, Liana, he praised. I usually make coffee on my own, but yours turned out even better. Is it some kind of secret recipe? Honestly? Liana laughed. I brew it just like my grandmother taught me. I just add a little salt and black pepper, and it turns out more fragrant and interesting. Once upon a time, a long time ago, I drank exactly the same coffee. It's so strange to try something similar again now. It was evident from his face that he was lost in memories. Liana, do you want to know why I came up to you at that time? Of course, I would offer help to any other woman in a similar situation, but in general, you reminded me of a person I once loved. Before I met Isolda, I had a woman. You resemble her in some way. When I saw you, I even thought for a moment that I saw her again. But, of course, you couldn't be her. Now she's about 45 years old. By the way, she used to make me the same coffee. It's so strange. What happened to her? Liana asked. You remember her with such warmth, it's easy to notice. Life turned out in such a way that I loved this woman very much, but I had to leave for a long time. Nikaner sighed heavily. And when I came back, she didn't want to talk to me at all. No matter how hard I tried, everything was in vain. I left, hoping that one day she would forgive me. But, alas, I don't even know what she's doing now or where she is, and then I met Isolde. Christian was born. The past gradually let go of me, and I stopped feeling sorry for myself. Being abandoned is very difficult. I was wrong to leave her then. But deep down, I always hoped she would be able to forgive me. I guess I can forgive Diego. He acted despicably, but I don't want to hold a grudge against him. That's right. You have your whole life ahead of you, and now you also have a child. Live for yourself and her, not for some dubious guy who doesn't need you. I don't condemn anyone, but you are the only one for yourself who will be there until the last breath. Learn to love yourself, and then everything will fall into place. Without that, you will be a victim of circumstances forever. Thanks for the coffee again. I'm off to work. I'll look forward to dinner. I'm glad you accepted Isolde's offer. In this house, they never cooked such delicious and simple home-cooked meals. It makes you think again about a huge family. Thank you, Nikaner, Liana smiled. Hello, Germana, Liana greeted joyfully when she called her friend. Liana, where have you been? What happened? Germana, so much has happened. I don't even know where to start. Let's meet, and you'll tell me everything. I can't for now. I got a job. What about the child? I don't believe Diego agreed to stay with the girl. He works too. He doesn't work anywhere. Diego turned out to be such a scoundrel. He just disappeared, didn't meet me when I was discharged from the maternity hospital, and I don't have any money or keys to the apartment. I was just standing there with Maricela in my arms, crying. If not for Nikaner, I would have been left on the street. Nikaner? Germana was alerted. Don't think of anything bad. He's a very decent person. In general, he took me in for a couple of days. I thought I would leave when you returned, then I would live with you for a while, and then return to my grandmother, but everything turned out as it did. It's a very wealthy and close-knit family. Learning about my situation, they offered me to stay and cook for them. I agreed. Wow. And do they pay well? I have no idea. I'm just grateful for a roof over my head, food, and a pleasant woman, the former nanny of the host's son, who takes care of Maricela. A nanny, you say? They really seem to be a wealthy family. Yes, they live in a country settlement. Flies here even need a pass to fly. Wow. So, you're living in isolation and there are no days off? Germana, don't be ridiculous. I've only been working for 3 days. It's too early to ask for a day off. Can't I come to see you either? I'll ask the landlady. I think she won't mind. Tell me something else. Have you been to his apartment, and no one opened the door? You know, I thought someone was approaching the door, but they weren't going to open it. And I heard the dog. Rocky, I guess, sniffed me out, but they didn't allow him to bark. I see, Liana pondered. I don't care what Diego says, but I would like to take my things, documents. I won't even show him his daughter. I can go with you. He won't open the door to us, it's clear. Okay, I'll think of something. Thank God you're okay. I was so worried. Yes, thank you. And how about you? Were you able to conquer the man of your dreams? I'll tell you all about it later. Everything's even better than excellent. I'm glad, Liana smiled. I'll go prepare lunch. I don't want to spoil the impression of myself. Talk to you later, dear. Liana said goodbye to her friend and went to check on her daughter. When she turned around, she saw Christian leaning on the railings. Oops, the girl flinched. Sorry, I didn't think anyone was here. Liana, stop apologizing. I was just walking and didn't want to interfere, seeing that you were talking on the phone. I should apologize that I became an involuntary listener to the conversation. Tell me, do you need any help? Let me take you to your previous apartment. We'll take everything you need. Are you out of your mind? I don't need to do this. Actually, you do, even just to get your passport. Your mother will officially arrange for you to work, and you probably need to get a birth certificate too. Otherwise, you and your daughter are living here like illegal aliens. But how? Diego won't let me in. I can't figure out how to get into the apartment. It's very simple. He just won't open the door if you come alone. If he sees that you've come with a guy, he'll calm down, understand that you might have found someone for yourself and are not ready for a scandal, quickly grab the documents, and leave. And if he doesn't open, we'll just call the police. There are neighbors who can confirm that you lived there, right? Of course, Liana nodded. All right, let's go. Wait, I probably won't be able to just leave the house like that. I still have to cook lunch. It can wait. Mom doesn't eat during the day, and I'll be with you. We'll have a snack in town. No, I can't do that. Now I'm being paid for it. Let me quickly prepare everything, and then we'll go. Okay. Besides, I doubt Diego will be home at this time. We'll have more chances to catch him in the evening. As you wish. Call me when you're ready. Liana quickly finished preparing lunch, but then got distracted by her daughter, giving Ariel a chance to rest. She was able to go with Christian only after dinner. Isolde approved of her son's plan. When Liana and Christian arrived at the house, it was about to get dark. Lights were on in the windows of the apartment. Looks like he's home, Liana said, pointing to the windows. Great, let's go. They didn't ring the entry phone. After climbing to the second floor, Liana hesitated to call, so Christian did it for her. A dog barked behind the door, sensing its owner. Diego, open up. I know you're home. Stop it already. I don't need anything from you. Just give me my documents. There was no response, although Liana could hear cautious footsteps, and the dog was barking. Diego, if you don't open right now, we'll call the police, Christian suddenly said. Liana was knocking on the door, hoping that her ex-boyfriend would be scared by the noise and open the door. It did happen. The door was ajar, as far as the chain allowed. They could see Diego's face. What do you want? He grunted. Hello, Liana replied to him. Christian noticed tears welling up in her eyes. The guy realized that she was about to cry and pushed the girl aside. Listen, Diego, you acted like a real bastard, but it's not your problem. Just give the girl her things and live as you please. And who are you? The ex-boyfriend asked sarcastically. Let's just say it's none of your business, but I'll still tell you. Now Liana is under my protection from jerks like you. And since you didn't bother to explain to her what was happening, I won't bother to explain anything to you. Bring out the documents, and we'll leave. Liana was standing there, trying not to breathe. She heard Rocky barking somewhere deep inside the apartment. He locked him up, the girl thought. I hope he's not hurting the dog. She didn't want to interfere with the conversation. It was disgusting to look at Diego, pitifully hiding behind the door. Diego locked the door, but after a couple of minutes, he opened it again, handing Christian a small folder and a bag. Everything is here. If you need other belongings, you can come tomorrow. I'll gather everything. I don't need anything more. Don't you dare to hurt the dog, Liana said, starting to descend the stairs. As for the daughter, you can forget about her. If someday you suddenly want to see her, then better chase such a thought away right now. Diego shouted something after her, but Liana didn't hear his words anymore. Liana had been working for Nikanor's family for almost a year. Everyone in the house had grown to love both the girl and her little daughter. Maricela was already crawling around, and Ariel often babysat her when Liana was busy in the kitchen. Isolde didn't mind pampering the girl either. Liana didn't think about Diego at all. Germana told her that her ex-boyfriend had found himself a new girlfriend who managed his apartment. But this information was unnecessary for Liana. She simply eliminated this person from her life, not wanting to think about him or dig into the reasons for his actions. It was just not interesting to her. Now Liana's life was filled with new meanings. Her daughter was growing quickly, and Liana didn't want to miss a minute of her life. So after finishing her duties, she would immediately run to the baby. Liana liked her job. She found it pleasant and not too difficult to cook for this family. Isolde paid for culinary courses for the girl from a well-known chef. "Dear, understand," the housewife spoke enthusiastically, "it doesn't mean that we don't like the way you cook. Everything is wonderful. But you should understand that working in this house is not the limit. You have potential. Maricela will grow up, and you'll have a lot of free time. Don't you want to grow professionally and, for example, someday open your own little restaurant?" "Isolde, what do I need a restaurant for, let alone my own one?" Liana answered skeptically. "And what's wrong with that? You've been working here for a year now. Guests came to our house more than once. You should have seen their faces when they tasted your dishes. It was something they never dreamed of. Of course, they're used to having lunch at good restaurants, but the dishes there are cooked without soul, while yours are completely different. If you take my idea seriously, and I recommend you do, then I'll talk to Nijkaner. I think he'll be interested in the opportunity to invest in you." "What do you mean?" Liana was surprised. "It's very simple. Let's ask him to lend you money for a small restaurant. You'll do everything as you wish. Nobody will interfere and impose their opinion. Do you hear me? Just the way you want it. For some reason, I believe that you'll succeed. I'll make sure that the first clients come to you. I think many of our acquaintances won't refuse. What if it doesn't work out? What if the restaurant doesn't pay off?" Liana hesitated. "I imagine how much money it is to open your own place, even if it's small." "Liana," Isolde reassured her, "let's not worry about that. All right? All you have to do is agree, leave the rest to me, please." "Isolde, I don't know how to react. This is all very serious." "It's not. I see you enjoy cooking. I know you're worthy of more than just spending whole days in our kitchen. You have to ensure a decent future for our little girl." It was nice for Liana that Isolde called Maricela our little girl. Sometimes it seemed to her that the homeowner seriously considered Maricela her granddaughter, although the status of grandmother was not at all in line with the image and character of this remarkable woman. "So, dear," Isolde continued, "think about it. I'm not rushing you, but my advice has never hurt anyone. Moreover, everything that surrounds us now has been created thanks to me. If Nijkaner hadn't listened to me, I'm afraid to think about where we would all be. I'll think about it. Honestly, I once had such a dream, but realizing it seemed impossible." "Nothing is impossible," Isolde summed up, finishing her coffee. Liana really wanted to see her grandmother. She often called her granddaughter and asked her to come together with the baby. Olivia Vega had never seen her great-granddaughter in person, only via video calls. The woman was glad that Liana was well settled and doing what she loved. But Liana didn't know how to ask for a leave. One evening, she was sitting in the kitchen, watching Maricela play, and apparently, it was evident she was concerned about something. Nijkaner came in for a snack and immediately noticed it. "Liana," he addressed her, "what's troubling you?" "Oh, I'm sorry," Liana began to apologize out of habit. "Apologizing again? How much longer can you feel guilty? You've become like family to us over this time. Speak up. I see something's bothering you. Let's be open. I miss my grandmother very much. She called again yesterday and asked me to come." "And what's the problem?" Nijkaner frowned. "We don't keep you here on a leash. You've been working for a year already, never asked for a vacation, not even allowing yourself to have weekends. You can't go on like this." "But there can't be any buts here. We're all humans. It's normal to have a rest. Go to her tomorrow. Don't think about us. We'll manage a week without your cooking. We won't die." "Really?" Liana's eyes lit up. "Of course. If you want, I can even take you there. You remember when you said she lives somewhere near the town? I have a day off. I'll drive you and the little one in comfort, especially since I haven't driven for a long time. I used to travel the whole country when I was younger. That was my job. It will be a joy for me. If you're not joking, then, of course, Liana agreed joyfully. All right, then. Go get your things ready. We'll leave in the morning. Liana immediately took advantage of the offer. Her desire to see her loved one was so great. She hadn't seen Olivia for a long time. The grandmother was ill, so she rarely went anywhere, and Liana herself, involved in family life, couldn't afford to leave for long. Diego wasn't particularly happy when she mentioned a possible trip. As promised, Nicaner was ready in the morning. After feeding the whole family for the last time, Liana and Maricela got ready and went to the car. Nicaner was already there. The girl comfortably settled in with her daughter in the back seat. So, the man said, "You didn't tell me where we were going. I hope it won't turn out that it's very far. I'd like to be back by evening." "No," Liana laughed. "Grandma lives in a village near the city. It's just 150 kilometers from here. I used to get there by bus in a couple of hours." "In the village?" Nicaner asked again. "Yes. I'll explain how to get there." "No, don't bother," the man smiled. "I know where it is. It just so happens that I used to visit there quite often when I was younger." "Really?" Liana was surprised. She noticed a strange, sad smile on Nicaner's face. "Yeah," he sighed. "I can say that I even lived there before, but not for long." "Wow," the girl said in surprise. "Who would have thought?" Nicaner was driving the car very carefully. But even with this, they arrived quickly. Along the way, the man once again voiced the proposal that Isolda had made earlier. "So, Liana, have you thought about getting into the restaurant business?" The girl blushed. "Did Isolda tell you everything after all?" "There can't be secrets between husband and wife," the man said. "So, what do you think?" "I would really love to," Liana confessed. "If you really want to, then we'll do everything in the best way. If you already have some ideas, speak them out. Later, I can show you a couple of good locations, and Antonio will help with the interior." "That's great." The girl almost clapped her hands. "But I'm a little scared. I have no idea how to run a business." "There's nothing difficult if you have a head on your shoulders. All you need to do is immerse yourself in the process with all your heart. Leave all the organizational details to the specialists and just cook." The car stopped near a 5-story brick building with 2 entrances. "Does your grandmother live here?" Nicaner asked rather strangely. "Yes," Liana nodded. "I grew up here. Of course, it's not the most decent house, but..." "It's a very good house," Nicaner said wistfully. Liana found Nicaner's behavior strange. It was obvious that everything in this small town evoked some incomprehensible emotions in him. "Will you come with me?" Liana asked. "I'm afraid of confusing your grandmother, but I'll help you carry the packages and the stroller. Take the little one." They got out of the car and headed to the entrance. Liana rang the intercom. It opened immediately. Leaving the stroller downstairs, they went up to the 4th floor. There was no elevator in the house. On the way, Liana noticed that Nicaner had changed a lot in his face. He looked confused. When they reached the apartment, the man looked strangely at the girl. The door opened almost immediately, and a short old woman appeared in the doorway. Seeing Liana, the woman burst into tears. She rushed to hug her granddaughter and kissed the little girl. "My girl," Olivia cried, "I'm so glad to see you. I didn't even think it would happen. Why are you standing in the doorway? Come in quickly." And only then did she see Nicaner. For a moment, the woman was still, staring at his face. "It can't be," she finally said. "Nicaner, is it really you?" Liana didn't understand anything. She looked at her grandmother, then at Nicaner. Tears were running down the man's face. He was silent. Well, Olivia came to her senses. Let's come into the house. There's no need to stand in the hall. When everyone was inside, Liana finally asked, Grandma, does it mean you know each other? But how? Only now did she begin to understand that Nikaner was experiencing all these emotions of incomprehensible nostalgia for some reason. It turns out we know each other. Olivia looked at the man. He was standing still, unable to cope with the shock. Nikaner, don't stand there dead in your tracks. Come into the room. The man obediently followed into the room. Liana noticed that he knew perfectly well where to go. She left Maricela with him and went to help her grandmother unpack the packages. Liana, tell me, do you know who this man is? Of course I do, Grandma, Liana laughed. This man is my savior and employer. Thanks to him, I believe that there is a place for miracles in the world. Really? Olivia asked. Yes. And now I'm very interested in where you know him from and why you are so easily communicating with him. He said he used to come here often, but I didn't even think that the world was so small that you would turn out to be old friends. We're not old friends, the grandmother sighed. You know, I'm not allowed to tell you this. Ask him yourself. Okay? But not now, later. And I would really like to talk to him myself, to be honest. This is all very strange, Grandma. All right, let's go meet Maricela already. She doesn't say much yet, but I think you'll find her interesting. Liana was watching Nikaner. He was playing with the girl, but it was noticeable that the man was very agitated. Olivia was sitting next to him and seemed nervous too. Okay, that's it, Liana couldn't stand it. I have the right to know what's going on here. If you need to talk, I'll go for a walk with Maricela, but then you'll tell me everything. She quickly took the girl and left the apartment. After a 40-minute walk, Liana returned. Maricela was falling asleep in the stroller, and the girl hurried back to the house to put her to bed. She gently put the girl in her old bed. The room almost didn't change from the moment she left several years ago. Even her mom's photo was still hanging on the wall, slightly tilted. Liana straightened the photo out of habit and left. Olivia and Nikaner were already waiting for her. From their faces, Liana couldn't understand what the conversation was about. Liana, Nikaner started first. Sit down, please, I need to tell you something very important. Let me leave you, the grandmother said, heading for the exit. Olivia, the man looked at her, don't leave, please. Are you sure? Well, okay. What's all this about? Liana's looked from Nikaner to the grandmother, confused. Sit down, darling, Nikaner patted the sofa next to him. We have a long conversation ahead of us. Liana obediently sat down next to him and prepared to listen. Once upon a time, Nikaner began, taking a deep breath. No, not like that. 25 years ago, I was a young specialist and was sent here to work. At that time, I was a promising designer of oil equipment, and a decent oil field was opened in the village. The corporation I worked for was responsible for the development. So, I took advantage of the opportunity. There was no competition. A few agreed to come here from the comfortable life in the big city, and I had nothing to lose, especially since I needed to gain experience. I rented a room from your grandmother. That's it, Liana exclaimed. Now everything is clear. Wait, Liana, don't interrupt, Nikaner continued. Olivia did not live here alone, you understand. Your mother, Katerina Sans, did not like her mother's decision to rent one of the rooms to a strange man. At that time, she was the same age as you are now. I can imagine what emotions I aroused in her. Katerina didn't like me right away. She understood that a tenant could at least slightly improve the disastrous situation in which the family was in those difficult times, but she couldn't cope with her emotions. She constantly arranged small annoyances for me. One morning, I caught her in the hallway, neatly trimming the laces on my shoes with a knife. Not wanting to wake Olivia, for some reason I started scolding her in a whisper, and she also whispered back in a ridiculous way to justify herself. The situation was so ridiculous that we soon laughed out loud. That's how we became friends with her. Katerina quickly changed her anger to mercy. In the mornings, she brewed me coffee and saw me off to work. It became so familiar that I didn't even notice how I fell in love with her head over heels. Katerina reciprocated. Even Olivia didn't mind. And everything was going well until my contract expired. When it was finally time to come to her, your mother didn't let me in. She didn't even open the door for me. But I was persistent. I made her come down to me in the yard, and we talked for a long time in that funny mushroom on the playground. She didn't forgive me. She swore that she had fallen out of love and found a new man with whom she was happy, and I was a fool and believed her. She said it with such fury. Only now do I understand that it was all a lie, and she was just waiting for me to come down from my heavenly heights to earth to finally honor her with my presence. I then hotly argued that I did everything for her sake. But the fact that she had feelings for another man made me cool down. I didn't want to interfere. What could I do? I didn't even think that she was lying or hiding something from me. Why didn't I insist? Why didn't I go to Olivia? Now I blame myself the most. Nikaner, stop it, the grandmother said in a soothing voice. Katerina made her choice. She didn't tell me anything about your arrival then. If only I could, but... Well, I don't understand anything. So, it was more than 20 years ago. But where was I? Now, Liana, let's talk about you, Nikaner sighed. You see, your mother lied not only about a new man, she didn't say anything about you, and I didn't know anything. Nothing at all. I don't understand, the girl frowned. The man laughed nervously. When I left, Katerina was pregnant. She probably didn't know herself. And then I disappeared, and she was left completely alone. I don't know why she didn't tell me anything when I called. Or was she afraid to distract me or to lose me? Either way, she was wrong, but when you were born, I didn't know that somewhere in the world my daughter was born. Daughter? Liana asked. Yes, daughter. Exactly. Olivia, why didn't you make any attempts to contact me? You knew my number. Katerina forbade me to talk to you. She came up with the idea that you had another woman and just erased you from her life. I've been working all the time since then. I loved Katerina madly. You wouldn't believe how I cursed myself for not being able to rise to the level where I could provide her with a decent life. But she couldn't understand that. If a woman harbors a grudge, it's useless to try to establish contact. Katerina was too proud, Olivia. But when she died, when you were left alone with a small child, couldn't you have called me then? Do you think I didn't call? Even the memory of my daughter didn't stop me from doing that. Alas, by then, your number had already changed. I just didn't know where to find you. I thought you'd come someday, and as you can see, I wasn't wrong. All right, wait a minute, Liana said, coming to her senses. Are you saying, Nikaner, that you're my father? Yes, Liana, that's exactly it. Nikaner sighed and buried his face in his hands. But someone else is listed on my birth certificate, the girl exclaimed. My mother always said that my father died before I was born. Why did she have to tell you the truth? Maybe she would have done it someday when you grew up, but we'll never know. No, this simply can't be true. Liana was stunned by the news. Remember, I told you that I approached you then at the maternity hospital because you reminded me of someone? You look so much like your mother. I kept wondering how similar people can be. If only I had known then, everything would have turned out differently. Liana, forgive me, but I really had no idea. This is nonsense. Liana jumped up from the sofa and began to pace the room. No, I don't believe it. You're mixing something up. She ran out of the room, quickly put on her shoes, and ran down the stairs. Nikaner was shouting something to her, but Liana seemed not to hear him. She ran out of the entrance and quickly walked away, without knowing the way. She needed to gather her thoughts. Clouds gathered in the sky, which had previously been cloudless. Distant rolls of thunder were heard. Liana walked, not seeing anything in front of her. When the first raindrops hit her face, she looked up and saw the black sky. Lightning flashed, momentarily blinding the girl, and at that moment, everything fell into place. Liana felt as if she had awakened and understood everything Nikaner had told her. The rain increased, and the girl, wearing only a light dress, instantly got wet to the skin. She ran back to the house through the puddles. Nikaner was standing by the entrance. He was wet to the skin too. He seemed so ridiculous to Liana in his golden glasses and a crumpled jacket against the background of a shabby entrance door that she burst out laughing. "Liana, go into the house quickly, you'll catch a cold, there's a storm," the man shouted. The girl was crying. Tears running down her cheeks mingled with raindrops. She ran up and hugged him tightly. They were standing silently. Liana felt how quickly and loudly the man's heart was beating, even louder than the thunder coming from all sides. "This can't be," she sobbed, "it's impossible." "There is nothing impossible, girl," Nikaner stroked her head. "You know Isolde says it, and she is always right."
If you're enjoying it as well, leave a like and subscribe.